welcome to Music Mania. I am your host, King Crusoe, but you can call me KC, and this week we have a number of things to get to, just as is normally the case, but not quite as many brand new releases, allowing me the chance to go back to some other things that I missed last week, a couple of albums there, as well as going and listening to a handful of singles that I'd been meaning to for a few weeks now at this point. So let's jump right into it with some of the things that I missed from last week, starting off with the new Traitors album called Phobias. This was a record that I enjoyed for what it was. I'm not super familiar with Traitors as a whole, and I figured that the new album was a good way to experience them basically for the first time. Phobias was an interesting release in that there are a number of standout tracks, a number of songs that I thought were notably much better than the rest of the album. Things like Release, even Break to an extent, Trauma Bond, definitely a standout. Nuisance and I guess Imposter as well were also standout tracks for me. Solid album, but nothing truly amazing for me. I would say in general this felt a good bit. Well, what was it that I said in the written version of this review? I found it to be a bit generic and by the books is basically how I would describe this, and I would say that's pretty accurate. I'm still going to give this a 3 stars because it's not terrible. I'll say I recommend Phobias because it's definitely not a bad album. Copy and paste the little written stuff that I did. Do the standout tracks, which were, like I kind of just listed there, Release. My favorite song was Trauma Bond, and then Imposter was the other notable release in there, and this I actually listened to back on like the 24th. So we'll do that and review album. There's one other album that I didn't get to last week that I did this time around, was able to catch back up on, was Petrichor by Dal Ave and Jackson Rose. Is kind of a joint effort with them. Even I'd never heard of Jackson Rose before. The last Dal Ave album that I listened to, and sorry if I'm mispronouncing that band name, I have no idea how they intend for that to be pronounced. The last one of their albums, Suicide Forest, was good. It scratched a particular itch that I felt like not much of anything else that I was listening to at that point in time in 2020, 2021 was really scratching. So even though I didn't think that the album was great and there were only a couple of songs on it that I really liked, I ended up listening to it a ton. I think Petrichor is going to be a little bit of a mini obsession for me that I'll listen to a lot because it does something similar. It scratches an itch that not a whole lot of other stuff really does for me. Even though I don't think the first couple songs are very good, the rest of it are amazing. I'm sure the first couple songs I'll get used to with listening to the whole album overall, but like overall this is just great. It should be a 4-star, to be fair. It should only be a 4-star, like it's upper average type of quality because of those first 2 songs, but I'm giving this the benefit of the doubt in that I'm pretty sure I'll come to enjoy this as a 4.5-star listen, even with just a couple more spins, and I definitely plan to be spinning this a good bit over the year and probably over the next couple weeks, to be completely honest with you. So we will grab my review for this. Where is it? It is right over here. I'll paste that in there. I'll say, I highly recommend. I haven't had a highly recommend for a little while, so we'll put I highly recommend Petrichor. We'll get into here and do the standout tracks yet again. There's a number of standout tracks, surprisingly, for this release. Even though it's only like 10 songs and they're all less than 3 minutes long, I have 5 standout tracks. So Your Majesty, Hell for Rent was great as well. My favorite song was Curse My Name, but frankly there were like 2 or 3 other songs that I nearly put the favorite tag next to as well. So overall it's just really great. It's really consistent aside from the opening, which is a little bit underwhelming, but yeah, great album and I highly recommend it. So there you go. Now we're going to be moving on to the actual new album releases for the week, even though there was only one of them that I'm aware of or that I have been paying attention to for a little while, and that was obviously the new Architects album, which was super, super solid. I would say some of the track listing didn't fully make sense to me. One notable example is that I think that Whiplash and Seeing Red should have been alternated with each other. Evil Eyes didn't feel like it really fit in there right. Brain Dead and Everything Ends, these 3 songs don't really fit like a track listing order that sounded right to me, even though they're all good songs. Evil Eyes is the only one that I would say I wasn't hot on. Brain Dead and Judgment Day are the other ones that I will probably have to take a couple more listens to get used to. But overall, super solid album. I never listened to Architect's previous release, and I was really disappointed with their 2021 album, which I think was called For Those That Wish to Exist. Those two albums, the one I was disappointed in, the one I didn't listen to. This one feels like it's like a much better version of what For Those That Wish to Exist was kind of trying to be. At least maybe it's not even that. I haven't listened to that album for a good long while because I thought it was mostly boring. But this is solid, super solid. I'm not a huge Architects person, so it's only 4-star for me, upper average. But I do think I'll listen to this one a good bit over the rest of the year and say I recommend. Very long title here: The Sky, the Earth, and All in Between. I can't type fast enough to be able to do that very effectively. Let's grab my review, put it over here, and then standout tracks, just like normal. There was also a good bit of this. There's 12 songs on the album, and I have 6 standout tracks, so that kind of shows you that it was good. I think the intro and outro especially are very solid. My favorite song was Black Hole. But yeah, Elegy and then Chandelier as the opener and closer were phenomenal. I really liked all of the more dynamic songs like Everything Ends and Broken Mirror. They did quite well for me. Even Chandelier as well kind of followed that trend. So overall, I think the album's really solid. I'm definitely going to be listening to this a few more times to get used to a couple of those songs that I wasn't super hot on the first time, but it is a solid album, and I see why a bunch of people are giving it 4-star here, or rather, yeah, that would be 4-star, and that's because it's right there in that kind of upper average to exceptional level. Definitely their best album since 2018. Even though I haven't listened to the previous one, you know what I mean. But now with all of the albums covered, there are no EPs to talk about this week, so we're just going to skip right on ahead into the singles. There's only 2 new singles to talk about this week that I listened to, that I was paying attention to, that I really cared to check out. The first one was Run by Doth, and I guess it has a couple other artists associated with it. This was definitely nothing like I was expecting. It was a fine song, all things considered, but was nothing like I was expecting it to be after listening to just a couple of Doth albums last year, including their new one. I want to check out more Doth in general. This single wasn't necessarily it for me, unfortunately. Mask by Distard was also a new single. I believe this was another one of those bands that like Nick Nocturnal featured in one of those, artists with less than 1,000 artists videos, with less than 1,000 monthly listeners videos, sorry. And this was a new single that released. Again, I think this was fine. It wasn't a bad song, but it was also kind of a little bit confusing. I think it was too short and didn't really... Well, it's ironic that I'm going to say I think it was too short and didn't really have enough ideas going on, so there wasn't really anything stand out or notable about it, even though it wasn't necessarily a bad song in and of itself. But now we're going to move into my listens, in which my listens are basically just listening to all of Midwinter's discography through the 5 singles that they have, and then re-listened to their EP so that I could give them an artist rating, essentially. And I don't know why I actually X'd out all of my album ratings for this. That's not great. Either way, Pariah was not a very good song. It had a couple okay ideas, but I think the vocals on it are so bad that it brings any of those ideas down. It's definitely very, very rough. Thorn is a little bit of a step up, relatively speaking. It's not by a huge degree. I thought it was a bigger degree than it was, but then listening to a couple of the next couple singles that these guys released really kind of showed that no, they can do a little bit better than what they did in either of these first 2 songs. It was still kind of like finding their footing. After Thorn, they released MIA, which is a very good song. I'm going to give this one 4 stars. Definitely found their footing with this one. It's much more solid release than either of the next couple or either of the previous singles. Pretty good. I really enjoyed it, and I also utilized some more interesting songwriting, and the vocals are much better on this than the previous 2 singles. Origami Swans was a little bit of a step down, relatively speaking. It was just kind of okay. The vocals got to be a little bit more repetitive and annoying in the way the first 2 singles did, even though some of the songwriting is still good. Glass Mountains was another step up, though, to be, wait, what was that? Yeah. 3.5 stars for Glass Mountains. Not quite as good as MIA, but pretty close, all things considered. But the real standout of this, re-listen of me was re-listening to Is There Anything You Want to Say, which I really enjoyed earlier this year. My thoughts on it are basically the same as the last couple times I listened to it. Solid EP. I don't think every song is that amazing. There's one song in particular that I think is really out of place with the way the chorus is written, and then there's another song in there that's kind of in, like, feels like it's in the wrong order, but overall it's a very solid album. So I will review this album again with 4 stars today, just because, I re-listened to it, and yeah, super solid release, and I hope that other people check this out because it's pretty good and a whole lot better than most of those independent singles that they released. But that means that with all of that, I could do a little bit of a mini discography ranking for Midwinter with all 5 of those singles and Is There Anything You Want to Say. So probably no surprise that this ordering is what it is based off of the things that I said on here. So you can check this out if you would like. I would say the EP is a big recommend. I enjoy MIA quite a bit. Glass Mountains is also kind of sort of in that quality, but if you just listen to the EP, that is by far the best that this band has to offer as a general rule. And I gave Midwinter as a whole 3 stars out of 5 because they had an average rating of 3.3. Again, same sentiment. And for the record, this little Midwinter recommendation here only comes to the metalcore band, obviously, because like this profile picture and several of the releases associated with these guys on Musicboard are nothing that this Midwinter band has anything to do with. Sometimes kind of like the way that certain streaming services cover artists and kind of like combine artists with the same name sometimes. That's the kind of thing that seemed to happen here. But yeah, that is everything that I have to talk about for Music Mania this week. I hope you enjoyed the video. If there's anything that released this weekend that I've missed at this point or that I didn't get a chance to check out, let me know those, shout them out to me, and I will try to put them in my listen later and get around to them in the coming weeks ahead. I appreciate you guys again for watching. For now, I've been your host, King Crusoe. You can call me KC, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.